What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the Switch Podcast. I am your host, Kejuannh Humphreys. And last night, the NBA revealed the reserves for the Eastern and Western All-Stars for the 2024 All-Star Game in Indianapolis. So before I dive into who made the team and who I think should have made the team, I just want to read off these two teams for you. So for the East, starting with the starters, we have Tyrese Halliburton, Damian Lillard, Jason Tatum, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid. And for the reserves, we have Bam Adebayo, Paolo Banchero, Jaylen Brown, Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, Donovan Mitchell, and Julius Randle. And for the West, we have Luka Doncic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Nikola Jokic. And in the reserves for the West, we have Devin Booker, Steph Curry, Anthony Davis, Anthony Edwards, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Karl Anthony Towns. So looking at these two teams, I'm going to start with the starters. Looking at the starters, I feel like the NBA got the starters for the most part correct, One thing that's notable for the West is the first time that Steph Curry is not in the starting lineup this is the first time that Steph Curry is not starting for the West in maybe 8 or 9 years. He's been starting. He's been a staple in the starting lineup for the West every single season, really up until now. And I feel like if there's any year that he wouldn't be starting, this would be the year. Luka Doncic and Shai Gilgeous, they're going crazy. They deserve everything they're getting. They're leading their teams, and I think that's just a staple. I think that just really shows how the game is going. The youth movement is going crazy, and I'm looking forward to it. But one disagreement I have is with the East, the Eastern backcourt. Tyrese Halliburton, we know what he's been doing. He's been absolutely spectacular. He led the backcourt for the East in fan votes. But Damian Lillard. This is not a knock on Dame. Dame is an exceptional player, an exceptional talent. He has the Bucks he's been a big part of the Bucks being second in the East right now. He's averaging 25.1 points per game, 6.8 assists on 42% from the field and 34% from three. But I feel like Jalen Brunson should be a starter. And I understand, the fan voting is important. Dame finished third as far as backcourt for fan voting. So I understand that's what the fans want to see. But as we're going to see later in this video, as I'm going to talk about later in this video, fan voting is not the end-all be-all when it comes to these All-Star teams. But, I feel like Brunson averaging 27.1 points per game, 6.4 assists per game, and the Knicks are third in the East. Brunson arguably has been better than Dame in the first half of the season. He has, and I feel like, people are sleeping on Brunson. Brunson has been a revelation for the Knicks. They wanted an elite guard play. They was in the sweepstakes for Dame a couple years ago. We know about the sweepstakes for Kyrie and KD. They didn't get them. They got Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson picking up, continuing what he's been doing last season in the playoffs, continuing that through the first half of the season. He's been absolutely exceptional, and I personally felt like he should have been a starter. But he made the All-Star team, so congratulations to him. But there are players that I felt like should have made the All-Star team that didn't make it. And before I get going with the snubs and stuff, I understand with the All-Star game and these kind of teams like that, it's hard to say, oh, I want this guy in. Okay, you want this guy in. Who would you take out? And I can sit here and say, I can look down his roster and say that, maybe there's one or two guys on the Eastern Conference that I would maybe prefer the guy that I'm about to say in over. But everybody that I named a part of the team and everybody that I'm going to name that didn't make the team have a case. There's nobody that's in the All-Star game that I feel like, oh, well, how did they get in there? You know what I'm saying? But I feel like this guy starting with the East, this guy should have been in somehow, some way. And we're going to talk about why he didn't make it and why that shouldn't be that big of a penalty to him. So for the Eastern Conference snub, the main one that I have Trae Young. Trae Young is averaging 27 points per game. He's 10th in the league in scoring. He's averaging 10.9 assists per game. He's second in the league in that category. But the Hawks are currently 10th in the East with a 20-27 record. I feel like I talked about it earlier with Dame. The All-Star game is a popularity contest at its first. At the first priority is your popularity. The fans, we vote on who we want to see in the All-Star game. And Trae Young finished with the second most votes in the Eastern Conference backcourt. But yet, not only is he not a starter, but he's not even in the All-Star game. He doesn't even make the All-Star team. And I feel like I understand that, okay, the team success is most important to the committee or whoever votes on the All-Star game. Team success is most important. But with the numbers Trae Young is putting up, I feel like it shouldn't be that big of a penalty. You know, you're averaging 27 points and roughly 11 assists. You know, we see guys on both sides that are in the bottom half of the conference still making the All-Star game. There are teams that are not in the top 8 in their conference that have more than one All-Star in the game. But Trae Young is the one that's being punished, not just this season, but in seasons past, he's being punished because his team's not performing up to par. When Trae Young's on the court, his team is better than when he's off the court. Trae Young putting up these superhero numbers, and they're losing. Yes, they're losing, but he's putting up crazy numbers to where they should be able to, at least for the All-Star game. We're not talking All NBA. We're talking for the All-Star game. They should at least be able to go head to head with his losing record. And I understand he has a bad reputation in the media. He only got one vote from the media because the way All-Star is broken up is the fan votes, then the players vote, then the media votes. Trae Young only received one vote out of the media for the All-Star game, and that's the reason why he didn't make it. Ultimately, that's ultimately the reason why he didn't make it. And the media, they just have this weird gripe with Trae Young. Now, looking at the West, I have two players. These two players they go hand to hand as far as players that I believe should have made the All-Star team. First, I have Domantas Sabonis for the Sacramento Kings. He's averaging 19.9 points per game, 13 rebounds per game, and 8 assists per game. The Kings are currently 5th in the West with a 27-19 record. How doesn't he make it? You know, how doesn't Domantas Sabonis make the All-Star game? He's putting up crazy numbers. They're winning games. He checks all the boxes. He checks all of the boxes. I don't understand how he doesn't get in, but we see Anthony Davis. The Lakers are under the Kings in the standings by a couple spots. But Anthony Davis he's having a good year. He's averaging 25 points and 12 rebounds. He's having a really good year. But what I was just saying with Trae Young, how Trae Young's team success was detrimental to him. Sabonis' team success didn't help his case at all. He didn't make the All-Star game. And the same can be said for my other player that I'm looking at, De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox is averaging 27 points per game, 5.5 assists per game, 4.1 rebounds per game. He's having a really good year, and he has the wins to back it up. But he didn't make the All-Star game. I don't understand how the 5th best team in the West doesn't have an All-Star at all. Like, not one, but these teams that are below them have 2. I understand you can't leave LeBron James and Anthony Davis out. I understand that. Stephen Curry, the Warriors are below 500. Stephen Curry makes the All-Star team. I understand. That's Stephen Curry. You cannot leave Stephen Curry out of the All-Star game no matter how bad his team is performing. But we do know, well, with the East and with Trae Young at least, there are going to be spots for him to fill as an injury replacement. Joel Embiid, we heard the news yesterday about him having a lateral meniscus tear. They don't know how long he's going to be out. I actually have a video coming out about that really soon. Going to be talking about the 76ers and how they're going to have to go without their superstar big man and how that injury really shapes the East, at least until we know how bad the injury is, how long he's going to be out. But also, Julius Randle is out with a dislocated shoulder. He's going to be out for at least 2 to 3 weeks. Trae Young and another potential replacement could replace him. So Trae Young's probably going to end up in, and I'm going to be able to calm down about that. But I just didn't understand. I knew going into last night, I felt okay. Trae should be in, right? I understand the Hawks are losing, and the Hawks are my team, so maybe there's some bias to this. But I understand the Hawks are losing, but he's been going crazy. And the West, I don't understand. I don't see. Looking at the West, like I said, there's no real guy that I can say is not. You can't take Anthony Davis out of the All-Star game. The Timberwolves are really good this season, so I understand having Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards. I'm sorry, in the All-Star game. Stephen Curry. You can't have an All-Star game without Stephen Curry. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. They've been playing really good so far this season. They should both be All-Stars. Maybe Paul George. Maybe could be subbed out for a Sabonis or a De'Aaron Fox. But I can't sit here and say that I'm carrying the torch and the pitchforks to the NBA about these teams. I can't sit here and say that. We have our disagreements, but I think they did a good job. I think they did a pretty good job with these two teams. We have a couple first-time All-Stars in Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Maxey. And last night, they put on a show. Tyrese Maxey putting up a career-high 51 points against the Utah Jazz without Joel Embiid last night in a win. And Jalen Brunson pouring in 41 points in the win last night as well. So, yeah, if there are also a couple players that I didn't name that may have had All-Star, like they had All-Star, I would say, claims. Lauri Markkanen for the Utah Jazz. He's been playing really good this year, and the Jazz are on the come up. They've been playing really good basketball ever since we came into the new year. We also have Alperen Sengun. Alperen Sengun's become he's become one of the very, very much underrated players in the NBA. He's been going crazy over in Houston. And we also have guys like James Harden. James Harden ever since he got to the Clippers been going crazy as well. But like I said, with the whole All-Star snub situation, you got to say, okay, who am I taking out? I want this guy in. Who am I going to take out? And I can't sit here and say, looking at these two rosters, I can't sit here and say anybody that I'm taking out to put somebody else in. So we're just going to see what happens. We're not really sure. There aren't any real injuries on the Western side. So that hopefully that doesn't change. But on the East, we do have two major injuries that could lead to more players getting in. I know the media really wants Derek White in. I don't understand how Derek White is in, but that's the whole team success. Team success outweighs individual player thing. But yeah, that's all I got for y'all today. Y'all take it easy, man. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, share with y'all peoples, and put in the comments who you felt like should have been in an All-Star game. Who you felt like should have been on the All-Star team, And I'm going to get in there. I'm going to reply to y'all. Like I said, I got a video coming out real soon about the whole Joel Embiid injury situation. But until then, y'all take it easy. We out of here. Yay!